Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is my 1982 Honda CB650 motorcycle that I'm going to build into a cafe racer. You can see there was a cafe racer attempt at some point in this bike's past. It's got a cafe racer seat that was implemented very horribly with the electronics somewhere between the seat and the frame and misaligned all kinds of ways. It has some very janky eBay rear shocks. It seems to have a dirt bike fender on it down here. The handlebars and controls up here look okay, but are all a little bit screwy. I'm sure this isn't the original 650 tank, although it's a really good looking tank, and I actually kind of dig the color, that British green racing look, but we'll see what color this bike ends up in. I'm sure this project's going to take a little bit longer than my previous CT builds. The exhaust looks pretty interesting. It's a 4-into-1. Coming out on the right side, it's a Jardine exhaust. I don't know too much about exhausts from this genre, but that looks pretty good. And the bike runs, that's the most important thing. At the shop, he fired it up and it was a little bit lumpy. He said the carbs need to be cleaned, but it's from a shop, again, that I've been going to that I trust. So happy to start with something that has at least the important parts solid, and I can work on the other pieces. But I am going to clean out the carbs and make sure that everything is running real well, including the transmission, so that I can pull the whole engine out, set it aside, and work on all of the aesthetics before putting all that stuff back in. So I'm really excited about this build though. I've always wanted to do a cafe racer. I absolutely love the look of cafe racer bikes. My last CT bike had a bit of cafe racer flair to it, but that doesn't really count. Although it did set me up to moving on to bigger and better things, which is going to be this bike. I'm not sure what the final look is actually going to be. I love the look of the inverted gold forks, so we'll likely do the R1 or R6 front end conversion. I do like the laced wheels that this bike came with. The CB650 actually came with mag wheels, so these laced wheels are from another bike, but I do dig the look. So I'll probably take this build a bit slowly as I try to make sure that everything that I want to have on the bike matches up with the overall look, and that the complete product looks as good as I'm hoping it will. So it's starting to rain. I hope that's not picking up too much on the audio. This is also the first time that I've tried trailering a motorcycle. Actually, not quite trailering. I used a hitch mount that I borrowed from a friend. It's supposed to support up to 600 pounds. I assume this bike is somewhere between 400 and 500 pounds. My 4Runner was pretty tilted towards the back though, and steering felt a bit wonky, but for that short drive it was good enough. So it's also now good to know that I have the ability to move motorcycles around, because the smaller CTs I could throw in the back of the 4Runner. As I get into some bigger bikes, I need to make sure that I have the ability to get those moved around as well. The setup that I use also just has a ramp, and it was relatively easy to pull that bike off and bring it into the garage. So let me take you around some of the details of this bike. The seat here again looks pretty terrible. All of the electronics are stuffed in between the frame itself and the seat, which, looking at it, looks like it was supposed to actually come over this part of the frame. They did do a cut here for the loop, which gives that more cafe racer look to the bike, but obviously didn't complete it correctly, and we'll be changing this up quite a bit. I doubt I'll even be using this seat. Probably build my own seat, but we'll see how that goes. It's got, again, some janky shocks. The exhaust actually looks pretty cool. There'll have to be a lot of work here too. So if the electronics aren't up here, and actually the battery I believe is supposed to sit up here, because they just plugged in a battery to test it out at the shop. But I think the concept was that it fits back here. I'm thinking about building a battery box here that drops down just a bit so that we can get the battery box, so that we can get the battery and the electronics in there. But I'll also figure out, at that point then, I assume I cut off these mounts for the grommets that I think had a plate that goes here that says 650. This tank I think is off of maybe a CB350. I'm not exactly sure. I do like the look and the shape of it though. That was actually the first thing that drew my attention to this bike. The gas cap, or the cover for the gas cap, needs a little bit of work. I kind of like how it's a full rectangular piece instead of just the strap that goes across. And it seems to work with the key, so I'll probably be retaining it, but definitely need to refinish it. The finish on the tank though is actually pretty good. I think a cleaning and polishing might be enough to retain it, but that's also if I decide to keep the bike green. So please subscribe, stay tuned on this build that's going to take, again, probably at least a good few months, if not a lot longer. I'm not exactly sure what I'm getting into in a bike that's this much more complex than the CT builds that I've done in the past, but I'm sure it's going to be a fun ride, and I'm expecting that the final product will be pretty awesome. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.